What makes a landscape photo a landscape photo? I suppose the traditional view is of grand, idealised vistas, often devoid of human intervention, where the scenery itself is the subject of the photograph. But over the years, landscape photography, like other genres of photography, has evolved. In this video, I want to get to the bottom of exactly what landscape photography is. And you never know, by the end, it might even have you recategorising some of your images. When I shared this picture in one of my videos last year, calling it a landscape photograph, I got loads of comments saying that it isn't a landscape photograph at all, it's a picture of a tree. And I have to admit, these comments concerned me. It seems like many people's perception of landscape photography lies in a very traditional past. So, in order to understand landscape photography today, let's look back in time, beyond the birth of photography itself, to landscape painting. Romanticism in the 18th and 19th centuries emphasised grandeur and beauty, but these paintings weren't just depictions of places, they were interpretations, often idealised and often dramatic. From the awesome foreboding paintings of J.M.W. Turner, emphasising atmosphere and even a sense of movement, to the more chocolate boxy interpretations of Constable's quintessential English countryside, a tradition was set for capturing the picturesque mood of a landscape. It wasn't long, though, before painters started experimenting, pushing the genre in new directions. Paintings like Caspar David Friedrich's Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog include a figure stood admiring the sublime landscape beyond. Indeed, one of the most recognised landscape paintings of all time, John Constable's The Haywain, is a tableau of English farming life, with the landscape of Flatford Mill providing context to the actions playing out within it. But of course these aren't landscape paintings, are they? They're paintings of people, right? When photography came along in the mid-1800s, practitioners would copy off this painterly style. That was until, of course, the likes of Ansel Adams and his F-64 group came along, keeping those traditions of mood and drama alive, but capturing the landscape in pin-sharp detail. Landscape photography as we kind of know it today was born. But just like those that shook up the definition of landscape painting, landscape photographers were soon doing the same thing. In the 1960s, one of the most recognised names in British photography, David Bailey, started taking his models outside the studio into an urban landscape, therefore blurring the lines between portraiture, fashion, street and urban landscape photography. In the 1970s, we saw the advent of the new topographics movement, where photographers like Bernard and Hilaire Becher, Louis Boltz, Robert Adams and Stephen Shaw rejected the natural, pristine landscape, instead deciding to train their cameras on landscapes that had been manipulated by human hand. Instead of being presented with picturesque drama, we were presented with everyday, often banal representations of the human-dominated landscape. The more time went on, the lines between these traditional genres of photography, like landscape, portraiture, documentary, street, architecture and abstract, became more and more blurred. This is one of my favourite photography theory books in my collection. It's called Perspectives on Place, Theory and Practice in Landscape Photography by J.A.P. Alexander. It breaks landscape photography down into 5 chapters: taming the view, defining nature, synthetic visions, landscape and power, and landmarks. Although the traditional view of landscape photography still very much holds sway, the examples that J.A.P. Alexander uses in this book show a distinct shift away from it as the years have gone by. From Penny Watson's Her Eyes On, a play on the word horizon, where she alters the format of her landscape photographs to portrait, showing off the curves of the mountains and their reflections, representing the curves of a female figure. This is used to highlight what has been traditionally a male dominance within landscape photography, as potentially subconsciously we try to pin down, frame, get one-upmanship and tame the landscape. To Penelope Umbrico's montage of sunset photographs lifted from online searches, highlighting the monotony and reproduction of so-called photogenic scenes. We're shown that landscape photography isn't necessarily all about the landscape. It's about how we as human beings interact with it and view it from our own unique perspectives. Synthetic Visions explores how technology plays a really important role in photography these days, from the cameras that we use to manipulation techniques that can obscure, distort and abstract the natural, picturesque world. Ultimately, you could say that landscape photography has morphed from being a celebration of the land to various different interpretations and observations of it. Today, landscape photography is more fluid than ever. We have aerial photography, abstract minimalism, conceptual landscapes that explore memory and identity. Photographers like Edward Batinsky train their cameras on industrial landscapes, showing off the scars of human consumption from alternative perspectives. Others, like Rinko Kawauchi, take a more poetic, intimate approach. As Alexander notes, the personal perspectives within landscape photography are absolutely crucial. The way that we frame a place, the emotions that we bring to it, it all has an impact on the final image. Understanding the complexities and the different directions the landscape genre has taken over the years, saying that this photograph isn't a landscape photograph, simply a photograph of a tree, to me is just a little bit petty. Although photography genres can be really useful sometimes, helping us to understand where our interests lie in relation to others, pigeonholing our work into distinct traditional categories can also be very detrimental. It can not only limit our exploration of new techniques and new ways of getting our own unique perspectives out into the world, but it can also stop us from keeping up with this ever-changing medium. So, instead of asking the question, is this a landscape photograph? Maybe a better question to ask is, what does this landscape mean to me? By answering this question, we can come to our own conclusions, rather than being confined to any predetermined rules or regulations. So, what's your definition of landscape photography? Do you still think those traditional techniques hold weight, or do you think we should all adopt a more fluid approach? I'd love to hear your opinion, so drop your thoughts in the comments below and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.